Welcome to the Work Hard, Smile Large podcast, where we believe in the power of positivity and hard work. More importantly, we remind our community that the youth we surround ourselves with are constantly in our shadow as mentees working hard too. I'm your host, Nicole Christopherson, and today's episode is all about breaking free from stress and anxiety to live your best life. In this episode, we have a very special guest joining us who's also a fellow podcast host.
I am the host of my own podcast called The Positively Healthy Mom.
Laura Ollinger, of Positively Healthy Coaching. She's a teen and parent well-being coach who's dedicated to guiding teenagers and parents towards a path of self-discovery and empowerment.
And I just love to kind of connect with teenagers and their parents really in any way I can, whether that's in person, whether it's virtual.
Laura's mission's clear, to help teenagers and parents navigate the tumultuous journey of adolescence with grace and understanding.
What I really want to just leave behind is to tell young people that they are the decider of their worth.
Without further ado, let's dive into this enlightening conversation with the incredible Laura Ollinger of Positively Healthy Coaching. Thank you so much for coming today. We had an awesome introduction to one another. Laura and I crossed paths in the HEB grocery store around the holiday time.
Yeah.
And it was an aha moment for my daughter and I that came out of that. It was really special. It brought a tear to my eyes. And we spent about 30 minutes getting to know one another. But Laura recognized me at HEB as that podcast girl.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I said.
No, you're like, aren't you the podcast girl? We're in the bread aisle.
Yes.
So, not to distract from you, introducing yourself.
Yeah.
I love meeting people in the community, and ours is so unique. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, me too. And I love the HEB is just so organic, and, we just connected right away, and it was so nice to see you with your daughter. And so, yeah, I was glad it happened like that.
I know. It was perfect. So thank you for joining me today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's great to be here.
We made it through the holiday season, and here we are, and still continuing to shine bright on our communities in multiple ways. So tell our audience a little bit about what you do and how you got started.
Okay. Well, I am a teen and parent well-being coach. So I do private coaching for teenagers or their parents. So sometimes I just coach the parents. Sometimes I do both together. I also do workshops for parents, tweens and teens. And I am the host of my own podcast called The Positively Healthy Mom. And I just love to kind of connect with teenagers and their parents really in any way I can, whether that's in person, whether it's virtual. Just to help them with building skills and have the resources to be able to have a better connection with either themselves or with their.
And I'm already sitting here thinking, because I have a tween, I'm like, we all need a sounding board. We need to know we're not crazy at certain times.
Yeah.
Because they're growing up and they're gaining responsibility and a voice. And it's guiding that in the right way is so important.
Right. It feels like every day you're like, am I doing this right? So you kind of start to question yourself. You wonder if you're over-parenting, if you're under-parenting, or if I say it's like Goldilocks, just right parenting. And really just making sure that you're being that kind of soft landing pad for them, because at the end of the day, they're under so much stress and pressure, like the social comparison with all the social media that they're experiencing these days, and just the
testing, assessments. I mean, everything is a competition for them.
Yeah.
All the way from their academics to their socialization.
Right. Right.
Crazy. So
they just come home and some parents get upset when even the tweens and teens who are kind of having these big meltdowns, I always say it's like that, remember when they were toddlers and they're having these meltdowns, and that was a little bit hard to tolerate, but you still were able to not get sucked into it because you're like, well, I'm the parent, they're the little one. I know, the right thing here. But as teenagers, sometimes they know what to say to really trigger you. And it really brings parents sometimes, it brings them down, energetically brings them down.
Your mental, your psychology, your psyche in it gets hurt.
Yes.
And you don't want to show it, and you struggle with that internally, and it carries through your day. That's what I always talk to my girls about is how I start my day impacts my entire day.
Yes.
And so while I set them up for success on how they start their day, how they start their day also impacts my energy, and I kind of have to shake it off. And a lot of times we go for a walk outside to try and reset before, rather than working out inside. My husband and I have found these other ways to just try and reset because you can't let it change your whole day. But it's power. Emotions are so powerful in a family and in your relationship with your child.
Yeah. And sometimes, they know how to say just the one thing that triggers the mom guilt, or, you didn't do it right or something. And they really try to suck you down sometimes with them. But it's just that's their own experience that they're feeling like their own level of pain. And so it's great to just stay true, energetically.
Shield.
Yeah, keep that shield up. Yes, yeah, so that you're not getting in it with them.
Yeah, I know, because we always say, work hard, smile large started with me saying work hard and them saying smile large. And so every day when they leave, I say work hard and they say smile large.
Oh.
And it's so funny on bad days, like no one's perfect, and I'm going to throw my kids under the bus right now. But my one will be like, you're all rainbows and butterflies. Like, it's not always smiley, Mom. It's not always that.
Yeah.
Just say it and just take a deep breath and try and start your day, please.
Yeah.
Yes, I get that, but,
Well, there's science behind that. They call that like priming for your day, and it's setting yourself up subconsciously to, be at a higher energetic level. So I think that's great that y'all do that.
Just because you didn't get your shoes on fast enough and you had to run up to the bus, it's not my fault.
Yes, yeah.
Just smile while you go up there.
Right. It's really, it's pumping them through with those positive neurotransmitters. So there is it's all about that brain science that's going on there. So I love.
And the best part is that when I was doing drop-off last year, my kids ride the bus most of the time, but we did a carpool for the first year of middle school for my daughter.
Yeah.
And so I did it every morning. I took every morning. And so I did it with her friends that we carpooled with and stuff.
Yeah.
Now her friends say it to me and they say it to one another and stuff. And it's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're inspiring each other too.
Yes. You have a ripple effect.
I tried.
A butterfly effect.
I tried.
Yeah.
It's helped a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's really how you start your day is how it means so much, like your routines and things like that. And so a question that I really have been thinking about all week long, preparing to get with you and share you with our audience was, you're a coach, and you were a coach before you were a parent, or a parent before you were a coach, right? Helping moms and teens navigate, because I think that's really interesting to understand.
Right. Well, I've intertwined the two so much. So, no, I was a parent first.
Yep.
But it's funny because I feel like the coaching part came very naturally to me, even when my kids were young. I think just the way I was parented, my mom and dad were fantastic and very loving and supportive people. But there were certain things, we all have that. So it's okay to admit that there were certain things I knew I didn't want to do.
So that's so funny. I was just going to say, because I love how I was raised. I have a great relationship with my parents, but there are certain things that I'm like, I don't want to sound like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like that. And it's subconsciously, I think about it often.
Yeah, I think we all
Oh my gosh, I just sounded like my mom.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Even every once in a while, my kids will tell me, you sound like Gaga. I'm like, oh, great. That's not what I'm going for.
Yeah, not in this instance.
Yeah,
I think all the other parts.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no. So I feel like very early on, I was kind of like figuring out what my parenting style was going to be, even from when they were young. But I just knew I wanted my kids to really have autonomy. That was kind of like something I was really striving for. I didn't want to boss them around. I didn't want to tell them what to do. I didn't want to be in any way kind of infringing on their own identity. I wanted them to develop that on their own. So I purposely kind of always parented with a lot of space, giving them a lot of space for them to find their way and figuring out who they are. And so it's almost like that's what I was already doing even before I went through all the training with the coaching and everything like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you do I was a working mom, and I don't know about you, but I didn't take maternity leave. I was working full time from the time I had both my children. And my husband always reminded me that I was leading by example, that they're going to see a strong mom and stuff. And I would feel really guilty about it. But I found that I was always really trying to be the fun mom when I wasn't working. Right.
Okay.
So we were always cooking together. We were always getting together with my friends, you know what I mean? My friends and their kids. And we were always doing tons of crafts, tons of cooking, tons of outings, which we always call adventures and stuff like that. And that was really important for me as my mom identity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Them understanding how to be prepared and pack the bag and, be prepared for where we're going and doing stuff. And so, that's instantly what came to mind when you were talking about what kind of mom you wanted to be in parenting. It's I knew I always had structure and routine from the people that were helping me raise my kids, be it family or a nanny. Or a babysitter or something like that. But outside of that, I was very much wanted to be the fun mom.
Yes.
That was teaching them life skills.
That's so fantastic. And even to the vibe of the dinner table. When I grew up, the dinner time was very serious and very structured. And I was I don't want it to be like that. I wanted dinner time to just feel good and connecting.
Yep.
I wanted us to all share, something from our day. So we did the rose and thorn. We've all done all different things.
Did the rose and thorn. We sit at the dinner table every night. One daughter sets it now. One daughter clears it and does the dishes.
Nice.
And we don't say rose and thorn anymore because we've adopted of only talking about the good things in our day and carrying those to our next day.
Oh, okay.
We learn from the thorns. And if we want to talk about something we learned, we can talk about a learning lesson. We don't call them thorns anymore.
Oh.
And my husband modified that like a couple years ago when we moved here. He's like, forget with the thorns.
Yeah, we don't need those thorns.
Yeah, let's just talk about what we learned about today.
Right. That's
just
great.
Always learn something from those thorns in your day.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah. So, well, that's neat that you all are doing.
I know, but the dinner table was really serious at my house growing up too. Like we had to finish our glass of milk. We had to eat those gross vegetables. Yeah. Like that's what I remember from dinner.
Well, I just remember, I think it was like the vibe that like my dad was a very hard worker. And so he was just stressed out. So I don't blame him for that, but he brought that energy to the table. And so the rest of us were like, kind of like absorbing some of that.
Yep.
And so I'm like, I don't want my kids to experience that. So I was all about just like, okay, we need to manage our own feelings before we come together,
to the table.
So kind of emotionally regulate. That's one of the skills I teach in like my parenting course. And to just so that we're ready to connect.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. And we started eating dinner a lot earlier this year because the kids get home and they're so hungry and the days are shorter in a certain season.
Yeah.
And so like I've had to send my daughter to do a reset. I'm like, just go reset for 10 minutes, wash your hands in your room, like not here in the kitchen.
Right.
Go down to your room, wash your hands, take 10 minutes and come back up. If you're not ready, take longer.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing this whirlwind of craziness right now.
Yeah.
You kind of adapted to that too.
Smart.
I know.
It seems like you have so many good like little habits and,
Well, I'm just recognizing like, you like your vibe attracts your tribe. And like we have a lot of things going on that we don't know about. And I don't know if that makes us better parents or good parents. It's just how we've navigated our families.
Yeah.
And adapted to like what, time is important. Sitting down at the table is so important for us. And I get so frustrated when we're like counter eating and stuff because I find that I relax the most when I'm surrounded by my family sitting at the dinner table. I'm not multitasking.
Yeah. Well, there's so much science behind that about how coming together, as a family, if you can one time a day, some, times it doesn't allow with the busy schedules and all the sports, but as best you can, because that's what creates that grounded feeling for the kids. So that way, no matter what goes on in their life outside of the house, they know it's safe to come back and like kind of be together and feel protected.
Yep. And if we've eaten out or whatever, the night that we do sit back down at the table, it's so peaceful.
Yeah.
It's like, we miss it.
Right.
Yeah. I just don't want to cook every night. And it's energetic.
I need a night off. Yeah.
Mom truth.
Yeah. Seriously.
So let's talk about tweens because that really relates to my life and where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I'm navigating it every day, every week, every time we detour from something or something else is introduced, we're determining how best we're going to handle it or speak about it or address it or whatever. And I've had to bring up this moment from last night. We went to go pick up my youngest daughter and Matt decided to go with me and my other daughter went with me. And so it was all of us in the car going to pick up my other daughter after soccer. And like my tween would not stop talking. It was like, I was like, and she just kept going and telling us about everything. We got home last night. We both went over like, that's a lot. Never stopped. And so it's so cool, like to have that communication with her.
Yeah.
And that's like the instant trigger for me when I know stuff's going on in her life because she'll get more quiet and silent.
Okay.
So I'm able to gauge her mood through her level of conversation with us.
Yeah.
And last night was awesome. Like, oh my gosh, like she really had a lot to say. Is it because they got out of school early yesterday?
Yeah,
What?
Like what happened?
Does she get all this talking done at school? But it's just really interesting for me because I'm so proud of my daughter and she's matured well in this move and our transition here 3 years ago, like really pushed us into these uncomfortable spaces where, you know what I mean? She's really stayed grounded on who she is. But I know tweening is not easy.
Yeah.
They're all maturing at different ages and it's kind of cool because they're openly talking about it with each other. You know what I mean? Which I think is really neat. The communication amongst their peer group has been really like pure and kind. But yeah, talk about, your experience. Because I have daughters. You have children, both genders.
Boys and girls.
Boys and girls.
Yes. Yeah. So my younger daughter right now is 11. And that it's a very sensitive age. And so they're all becoming much more self-conscious, more aware. how do they fit in?
I feel like that even starts at like 9, 10.
Yeah, totally. Like fourth grade is kind of like when
right where I'm at with my other
a lot of it. Like that's when those that social anxiety starts to creep in, or the self-doubt and all that stuff. So that's why I really like to like start with that age and like help do that skill building on the confidence and things like that. But this age, it is hard. Like what they're dealing with is difficult. And so that's why the parents...
Because they're not aware. I feel like it's that they're not aware of how it's impacting them, or like how their thoughts are impacting their actions so much. I feel like it's a learning process.
It is.
Beginning.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing is that the opinion of their peers is so heightened at that age. And so it's everything. And so one thing, that I tell parents is to really just understand that and don't dismiss that. So don't say, oh, don't worry about what they think, or who cares what they think, or tell them to be quiet, or like the voices or whatever of those kids. It's you kind of just need to get in there with them and understand, okay, this is very important. I get why this is such a big deal for you. And then you can kind of redirect them from there. But if you just dismiss them off, then they don't feel understood. And so that you're just cutting the communication, cutting that connection, and it's not really helping them.
Yeah. The communication is erratic at sometimes. Times. Like I'm just going like, I always go off like the after school. I'm always like, what are we going to get today? What are we going to get? Like, what, how, in the car. How anxious is she? Like what happened in her day? How tired is she? So that's why I always revert back to that. Like you need quiet time when you come home. You need to just like wash it off, like reset, take some deep breaths. I try to just breathe for a little bit. But that's probably the hardest age for me right now. And my older daughter, we were at a different place in our life and we had just moved. And so there was more going on at that time, a little bit different. It's an energetic time in our growth.
Yes. Well, you are lucky that the older one, shares so much.
She's a good role model.
Yes.
It's not going to change how they're because totally different kiddos. And that's another thing in parenting that I think is once you become aware that your kids are just so different. No matter how much you do the same effort from you it's going to be different effort for each child. A different strategy, a different tool set, let's set of tools to kind of work with them.
And then figure out what they're wanting. So a lot of times I do an exercise with parents where I say, how do you ideally want to connect with your child? What does that look like, sound like, feel like? Some moms say, oh, I really wish they'd just get in the car and talk with me and tell me about their day, or I really wish this, I really wish that. But then I say, well, if you asked your child, what does connecting look like to them? What does it look like, feel like, sound like? They're going to give a completely different answer, most likely. And so a lot of times teenagers, who I deal with the most, and my daughter's almost 16, sometimes they just want you to sit on the couch by them while they're watching their favorite Netflix show. Sometimes that's what they want for the connection. And so it's all about like, finding our way to each other, because we're different people and they want different things. And then even day to day is different, hour to hour, like whatever they're going through, it's constantly changing and evolving. So we just have to kind of like stay present, stay grounded, and see what we're in for.
And I think that level of communication with your child is so important, because I can tell you, I have not asked my youngest daughter like what she enjoys doing with me when she feels the most connected with me. I haven't asked her that in forever.
Well, it sounds something that people really
and that's not that
every day.
Cool. I know.
I mean, that's not like, we're so busy, and then it's hard to like really get deep like that without like a trigger or like something to like have that conversation happen. I know. I always try to break it up. I do this like tackle hug method with her when she's like really like just rough and like just rough on the edges. And I'm like, what can I do? Like, come on, calm down. I'm like, I'm just going to attack. I'm going to tackle you. This is going to happen. I'm just going to hug you 5,000 times right now. And I'm going to tackle you and I'm going to squeeze you. And I'm just like, half it's because I'm frustrated. The other half it's because I just feel like you need more love. Like, what's going on right now? I bet that helps. I bet and that helps them.
And then we laugh.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because it's a change in like physiology. Like that's something I talk about a lot, is like changing the state of your physiology. And so, then you're laughing and then you're connecting. It's just that pattern interrupt.
A little bit of like a detour from where we were at. It's pretty funny.
Oh, that's neat.
I know.
It sounds so funny at your house. I'm like, I want to be.
It's crazy at my house. But I think we determined really early on that we just wanted to be the house that everybody wanted to be at.
Yes.
And that was really important for me, because I work a lot and I'm not at home all the time and I run around and I don't want to be running my kids all over the place and, you know what I mean? Coordinating stuff with her. I just wanted to create a really like comfortable space for them to have their friends over and for their friends to feel comfortable. And so that's really what it's become.
That's so.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dishes and it's a lot of cleaning up and stuff, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yes.
At all.
Yeah. That's where we are right now. We, every weekend my boys are always having friends over, and we just started using the fire pit that we got. And so now their friends are out there, they're roasting some s'mores, and I'm like, I love being in the house. And granted, I do make them clean up and all that stuff, but like, I love being in the house where they're at. And it is kind of loud and messy and noisy and chaotic and smelly with the boys, but like, I still like it that they want to come.
Well, and selfishly, like with the it goes all the way back to the carpool thing and them being at the house, because they like cooking and being in the a kitchen's always like a common gathering area. Yeah, they're not like going and hiding in other rooms or whatever. But I get to hear their conversations. Not that I'm in them, but I think that's really helped me as a parent too.
Yeah.
A lot.
Fly on the wall. Like when
the fly on the wall.
And you're just listening.
So when Matt would take the kids to school, he would be like, oh yeah, I was talking to her, we were listening to this music and stuff. I'm like, did you ever just sit and listen?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, no. And I'm like, okay, well, just try it. Just like sit and listen.
Yeah.
And so now when
they forget you're there.
Luell missed the bus. Yeah. Luell missed the bus this morning because he and I were both tracking the app, and then it like, I don't know, wasn't syncing appropriately. And so he drove her and he's like, I just listened to her the whole way there. And I was like, good. Yeah. A little one-on-one time and whatnot. But yeah, I love listening to the kids talk.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so fun.
It's the best. It's the best insight into their world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hearing them converse with one another.
Yeah.
So question came to mind, and I'm sure our listeners are wondering, because I know your podcast is geared towards moms. And your coaching is geared towards teens and tweens and their parents. Yeah. So are you coaching both mothers and fathers together, or just one at a time?
I've done both.
I know.
Yeah.
I understand.
It seems like whenever there's a problem in the family, it's always the mom's role to fix it. So mom is always the one to come to my website. Mom's the one to find the resources and the answers. But I have had dads do that as well.
Yeah.
So I have coached dads. I've coached mom and dad together. I don't actually like to coach them together in the same session, but I'll do dad one time, mom the next week, something like that.
Yep.
It just kind of works that way because we have mom and dad together. Sometimes it's like they're both wanting to talk and so I like to separate them. But I kind of do whatever the family needs. I'm pretty versatile. A lot of times conflict is mother-daughter conflict. So I love to have a mother and daughter, and I will do them in one session together. And I prepare them both in advance.
Yeah.
And then I have them sit down, and everything I do is virtual. So sometimes if they want to be on their own devices, or they can sit by each other too. Like, I've done it every way.
Nice.
But I really like
whatever they're comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see the transformation of, when they're not understanding each other and when they're kind of just hurting each other with their words a lot, because that's what girls do, women do. And then like kind of coming to an understanding of, so, the way you want to learn to cook is by me showing you instead of me telling you. Yes, that's how I want to learn to cook. Like I had a client who the mom was so frustrated. The daughter is 17. She's like, you don't make any food for yourself. Why am I still cooking your own food?
All of my sister-in-laws are in their 40s and none of them know how to cook.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, you never know, how long it takes somebody. I didn't learn to cook till my adult life, but, she's wanting her to do some basic skills. And so there was a lot of conflict in the kitchen. And the thing is, the daughter's actually like really smart, like academically smart. And the mom said, well, I don't understand why you can't even make mac and cheese. You just have to read the directions. And the daughter's like, I don't know how. And the mom said, but I don't understand why. You're so smart. And so there was this this was going on for months. Like, it was just the same thing, conversation over and over again. And so we kind of like broke it down and said, well, daughter, what are you needing? Mom, what are you needing? Yeah. How can we make this work together? And so we finally figured it out that like the daughter just wanted to be shown how to do something. Yep. That's how she wanted to learn. So we got through that issue.
That totally makes sense. And I'm sure our listeners can relate, because we're always making dinner for our children, and it doesn't mean that they're watching how we're doing it.
Yeah.
They're watching us or talking to us, right, kind of like in their own little world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're not following along.
Yes.
Like when my little ones wanted to start learning how to cook, she didn't want us to show her how to do it.
Oh, right.
She wanted us to just watch. She wanted all the attention on her while she did it.
Like a celebrity chef.
Yes.
TV. Watch cooking chef.
Yes. So it's very different. Yeah. But yeah, the girl, that's exactly what they do with their friends too, though. They teach each other little recipes. They come over and they're in my kitchen all the time.
Oh.
It's like top ramen cook-offs all the time. Like ramen this seasoning added to it. And they're all like sharing their little secret recipes, ingredients, which some make no sense.
Like, why?
Yeah. Cool. And then let's talk about like coaching your, like being in coaching with boys, right? And how that varies, because I'm sure it does vary a little bit, like getting a young male to talk about his feelings and his emotions, and how sensitive that is, because I have all nephews, so I really truly understand it, even though I don't have sons myself.
It's great. I love working with boys. Originally, I really wanted to actually just work with girls because that's what I felt connected with. And then I had somebody, can you do a boy? Sure, why not? The training that I've learned is the same, whether it's a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
And plus, I have my own son, so it's not like boys are not a stranger to me. But it depends on the kid.
Yeah.
But we don't force them to talk about their feelings. Since boys, they feel more comfortable with their thoughts, then I say, well, just tell me about your thoughts. Like, what thought happened in your brain that made you feel that way, that made you do that thing, and that's the reason why you're here, right? So we kind of like reverse engineer thoughts, feelings, behaviors. So I'm not forcing them to. If they want to, great. I might ask them a question. If they can't answer it, okay, well, let's, tackle it a different direction.
Is the end goal in coaching for them to like gain the tools to be able to navigate this on their own? Like, is that's truly the end goal of coaching, right?
The end goal is whatever the client wants. So they have the parent has a goal in mind for their child. The child has a goal in mind for themselves. So we establish that up front. And then whenever we reach that, then, we accomplish that. Then we ask, is there anything else you'd like to work on? Are there any other goals? And a lot of times, yes. Sometimes they just graduate and I say, yay, you did amazing work here. And I send them on their way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then they can stay in touch with you on your podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
The Positively Healthy Mom.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can follow her on LinkedIn. You're on Apple, Spotify. You're on everything.
Yeah.
So listen.
YouTube also.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. What is a life mantra or motto that you use either in your business or with your family?
My own personal one is to be authentic. I feel like that is kind of, for me, the base level. And I can feel myself every once in a while getting pulled out of my authenticity by someone else's energy, and because whatever they're going through, and then I recenter myself and I'm like, well, that didn't feel good. That wasn't me. So I always bring myself back. And honestly, that is what brings me the greatest joy, because it's the most connecting energy to other humans.
Yep.
Because a lot of us, we're all like wearing these different masks and different
It takes the static out.
Yeah, it takes it out.
When you're not being authentic and you're trying to lean into something else, there's just this static.
Yeah.
And like your decision making and your energy and your emotions.
Right.
All together.
Right. I think just in general, our world would be a better place if, especially with the society that we live in. It's like keeping up with the Joneses and the competition, and everybody's like got all this protective gear on because they want to feel good about themselves. But it's like, let's just be honest with each other. Like, let's be true. Like, let's be real. And so that's important to me. And I feel myself kind of on a daily basis, like maintaining my authenticity. And that's important to me. Yeah.
And that's really important to model for our children too.
Yeah.
I think that's like one thing as adult mentors and parents that we have to make sure they see us, like that we're modeling that.
Yeah.
Whether it's our health in the beginning of our day and whatever our daily routines are, or eating healthy, or getting ready or doing whatever we do normally, kind of creates a pattern for them to have their routines.
Right.
Right. And I'm like huge. Everybody that listens knows that I'm really big on daily routines.
Oh, yeah.
And they can vary and they can change. But as long as they're authentic to us, it's really important.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Very awesome. Is there anything that you would like to share with our listeners, like a little tip or trick?
Yeah, the ones
my friends, and I know a lot of our listeners have littles, some of them have older children, some of them are empty nesters even, and they're still dealing with the emotions of their young adult children.
The thing that I learned this a long, long time ago from actually a therapist, and she taught me to teach my children just the very simple skill of the I feel statements.
Okay.
And so I have 4 kids, and, when they're little, there's a lot of conflict. I mean, even now there's still conflict, right? And so what we would do is go around the dinner table, and I would literally ask them to express themselves in an I feel statement. And so it was cute because even though they were annoyed by it, they really adopted it. And so then they would say, well, I feel annoyed that she's doing this, or I feel frustrated, right? But still the skill. And the thing is, what I've seen that is paying off now as teenagers. They're still able to like name their emotion And that's such an important skill because most of us were not taught that.
No.
Growing up, they didn't teach us how to name.
Or you feel like you're supposed to feel a certain way, so you don't feel comfortable like being vulnerable and saying when it's not that positive emotion or that positive feeling.
Yeah, and that really comes back to that authenticity because, it's like, I think I heard a study recently that the average adult it sounds silly, but can only name 3 feelings: happy, mad, or sad. It's like there is like hundreds of emotions out there. And the more we can get
the vocabulary,
with them,
the vocabulary to
be able to name it, because there's one little saying that I always say, it's like you have to name it to tame it. And so,
very true.
And that's something I do with, validating like a teenager. So if one of my kids has had a bad day, or I teach my parent clients this, so you must be really disappointed that your teacher gave you such a bad grade on that. Am I right? And the kid will say, well, no, actually, I'm not disappointed. I'm more mad at myself, right? And so they can correct you. Like you can try to guess the feeling, and then if you're not right, then they'll guide you. But that's like honing their own internal compass of what it is that they're really feeling. So
it reminded me of when my daughter was like in kindergarten, and my daughter had a baby's nanny, and she was in preschool, and she was very active and social as a young child. But like my one daughter was super shy as a child. Like, I mean, so shy and so intimidated to go line up in kindergarten line.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had to get help. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I was frustrated because I'm like, we're so prepared. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
I just was like, I don't do it.
Yeah.
So we learned to get a little chart of faces that were all the different emotions.
I love that.
And so when she was brushing her teeth or I was fixing her hair in the morning, like we would always point out like how she felt that day, and those words were there and those faces were there. And then she was able to kind of like get outside of her like head, I guess you could say, that like shy head, and get down into her heart.
Yeah.
And that really helped her. And it's so funny because I went with a group of women to tour the Center for Childhood Protection here.
Oh, cool.
And one of those charts was on the wall.
Oh.
And one of my friends who has a daughter who's a little bit shy and whatever was like, oh my God, that's really great. And I'm like, I did that was so well. You got to like just put it on the mirror in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And when they're just looking at themselves in the mirror, they see it.
Right.
And they can say how they feel and like find those emotions or even just point at it.
Yeah.
And that was something
smart to like have it visually that they can see every day. Because then it is a fluency, like emotional fluency is figuring out like, oh, this is what's happening in my body right now.
As they're going in and washing their hands multiple times throughout the day is a little,
right.
Brushing their teeth twice a day,
yeah.
Fixing their hair or putting a headband in or stealing lipstick and putting lipstick on in the mirror or something.
Girls in the bathroom.
They're always doing something. That's why I lock my door. I'm like, my kids are not allowed to go into my room at all anymore because they're always like, I need more mascara.
Yeah.
You know, they're always trying to find stuff to play with. But that's a really good piece of advice, though, to have them identify their own feelings.
It's really like lifelong, because then even especially for boys, because I do have, 2 boys, 2 girls, the boys can then even bring that into their adult relationships. And to have a man
even think about that,
be able to then express to his partner, his wife, I'm feeling this, like how valuable is that? Like
priceless.
Yes, if all the men in our worlds could, share their feelings a little bit more authentically, we would know we could connect better instead of them like just stuffing it down and putting up that wall of I'm the man,
That is so true and so powerful. I think that's going to be my biggest takeaway today.
Oh, cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, that was super helpful for me.
Yeah.
Well, helping others is a lot. And obviously, you're raising your children, you're doing stuff. So, like, you have such a huge heart to be able to pour into all these other families, too. And it's, like, really special because I think our society and our communities really need that now. We've gone through so many different shifts with technology coming into play and playing a big role in our social lives, and the education system changing and the demands on assessments for education and what that puts on children and parents. But it's a priceless tool to be able to help parents and children navigate their emotions and their relationships with each other.
Yeah.
So I may be calling you soon. We're doing okay. It's just, it's a work in progress at all times. Yeah. And I'm so proud of my children, as I'm sure you're super proud of your children too.
Yeah.
Everyone can get in touch with Laura. She has a website. It's positivelyhealthycoaching.com.
Yeah.
And we'll have it here on the video and in the description as well. And then you can follow her on all podcast platforms, Positively Healthy Mom. Is there anything else that where else they can find you, or anything you want to direct them to? Because I think there's a lot of people in our community who are raising beautiful humans that are going to be our
Oh,
future.
that's awesome. Yeah. No, I love to get more followers on just all my handles are Positively Healthy Coaching. And
have them.
so, yeah, I'm there. Yeah.
Awesome. What do you want your legacy to be after you're done raising your babies and helping others? What's your legacy going to be in this world?
Well, what's really important to me is building confidence in young people so that they can get on the right path for their life, because that was what I wish I would have done for myself. So they always say, you're kind of healing an earlier version of yourself.
Yep.
I just feel like I made choices in my life that were not in my best interest because I didn't have the confidence to say, no, this isn't for me. This isn't what I want. I was kind of just defaulting and kind of like, how everybody goes on this path of life where you graduate, you go to college, you get married, you have kids, you buy the house, you have the dog, right? Like this little perfect linear line.
Yeah.
And that's not normal. That most people don't go linear. Like my path was like this. And so my legacy, what I really want to just like leave behind is to tell young people that they are the decider of their worth. They can choose now to feel good about themselves and realize they're worthy, or they can spend the next 60, 70, 80 years always doubting themselves, feeling not good, not having the worth, and then they're going to have a lot more problems. So it's like, just do it now while you have the chance to like create an entire path for yourself that could be better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Giving them the tools to succeed on their own.
Yeah.
And not just follow a path.
Exactly.
Or follow a friend or follow a tradition or follow an expectation or anything like that.
Right.
100% like what I think is so powerful for our future generations.
Yes.
Because there's so much opportunity and not one size fits all.
Right.
Not one size fits all. Like, are you using your college degree?
Not at all.
I use mine in a very different way. I'm not teaching children, nor do I think I could ever teach children ever again. But that's what I started out doing.
Oh, okay.
And I'm mentoring adults now.
Yeah.
So it's honed into something else.
Right.
Helping people buy homes and, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I never would have thought I was going to do that when I was going to college.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's those life skills.
Yes.
That you gain from other people in your community.
Right.
That guide you.
We're all building each other up and supporting each other. And it takes a village.
It takes a village.
Yeah.
100%. I say that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for giving me your time.
Yeah.
And sharing your tips with our audience and sharing your mantra. I love it. Thank you all for joining us on another episode of the Work Hard, Smile Large podcast. We always end with work hard,
smile large.
Have a great day. And that wraps up another incredible episode of the Work Hard, Smile Large podcast. I hope you enjoyed our journey today as much as I did. A big thank you to our amazing guest for sharing her story and insights. If you found inspiration in today's episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with friends, family, or anyone who could use a boost. Remember, your journey is unique and every step counts. Keep working hard and never forget to smile large. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. You never want to miss an episode. We have a lot more incredible stories and conversations lined up for this season. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep dreaming big, and as always, work hard, smile large.